Hi, Fresh Air Learning friends. How are you? It's so nice to see you again in the forest. This is a spot similar to the one that you saw me in my other forest videos. So I am looking forward to exploring this space with you. And sorry, I'm very distracted all of a sudden because there is a very interesting little bird. I think sometimes it's called a kinglet. It is about this big and it's budgie green and it has a little yellow head and yellow under its tail feathers and a little patch of black on its head, and it's a little is in the bushes just above the ground, flitting around on a cedar tree that's fallen down. And it doesn't appear to be too worried about me, which feels really nice. That the bird feels really comfortable. What a nice way to start out being together in the woods, to feel welcome in this space. So, or just thinking mindfully about that, this is not my space. This is home to a whole bunch of forest dwellers who call this home in their neighborhood. So I'm grateful to be in this space. It's also the unceded territories of our Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh Nations. So I'm grateful to get to play and explore and be curious about these beautiful spaces. I want to invite you to check out my bell. This bell is going to help us start our day, our time together. When I tap the bell, imagine the sound of the bell stretching out from me to you, and with that we can feel the settling that comes, a little bit like the morning dew. While we notice the settling of the ringing of the bell, see if you can hear the different birds that come with the quiet after the ring. See if we can begin to notice them. Just simple, no big deal. What we do and do not notice is just an experiment. Let's try it out, friends. Ready? Here we go. And ooh. Did you hear that? I heard a bee buzzing past me. And I heard a couple of robins and I think a couple of chickadees. And when I look around me to see whose neighborhood I'm sitting right in, I notice a friend called a huckleberry is sitting beside me. Hello, huckleberry friend. One of the children I used to work with used to call it a huckle baby, and now their leaves are starting to come out. And I notice beside me here too, here we have our friend Douglas Fir. Hello, Douglas Fir, how are you? I love how your bark is so thick and blotchy. Perfect little place for chickadees and other little birds to cache their little seeds to use as kitchen cupboards. I wonder how they remember where they put everything. Maybe they're a little bit like me and forget sometimes. That happens. The other thing I noticed, friends, this is just me wondering with you a little bit today. I was sitting here right before I pressed record on the camera, and I heard that bumblebee buzzing around, zzz, and I noticed the sound was going around me, and I saw, and even for a moment, I saw the bee stop in front of me, about 3 feet away. Never was I feeling frightened. I was curious about the message, about what the bee could be thinking. I was thinking, is the bee wondering if I'm going to be tromping all over this space, picking everything up and ripping apart wood and disturbing its habitat? Is it wondering if I'm a flower? I do have a little bit of bright colors on me. Maybe it was wondering, what is this thing sitting here in the woods? And then I saw it do a most curious thing. So this is our little bumblebee friend, pretend. This is a little hemlock cone that's here to be my helper. I saw the bumblebee reach down and grab a bunch of hemlock cones and pretend that my hand is the dirt. This little bumblebee friend went checking things out, and then it went right into the ground, and it started shuffling around in and amongst the cones. And I thought, oh, I wonder if there's a hole to a nest, a beehive there that I didn't notice before. And the bee scuttled around and stayed there for a little while. And I thought, oh, okay, maybe there's a nest quite close by. That would have been maybe as tall as you, away from me. And I thought, well, I'll watch and see if there's some more bees that come. And if there's a few that start to come around me, that might mean that maybe I'm a little bit too close to their house and I want to shift over a little bit. And maybe they're trying to tell me a message. Hey, you feel too close. Then I would move. Sorry, I'm so distracted by all the lovely little birds. It's such a special spot. I'm feeling so lucky. Anyway, but then the bee, it buzzed out. It was over to another spot and went underneath the pine cones on the ground over there and scuttled around and then rested and then took off. And I don't know what that behavior means. Bees have an excellent memory. They leave, a trace of where they live, so they know how to find where they're going home. So I love that I found something to be wondering about. I wonder if you want to think about it with me too. And I'm really noticing on the tree just beyond me that little bird, and there's about 4 of them, and I just think it's fascinating. Anyway, so distracted. Thinking about all these birds, I was wondering if you wanted to take some time to think about some different nests. It's that nesting season for sure. There's so many different types of nests. Imagine if you were a big eagle or a raven. You wouldn't need a squishy little nest like this. You need quite a bit of room. So you wouldn't necessarily spend a whole bunch of time collecting a bunch of mud and thread. You would be looking for bigger sticks. And I don't know if any of you have noticed any birds with some sticks in their beaks flying up ahead, or maybe a stick drops down from a tree and you wonder, oh, I wonder why that just fell down. Often the birds go up there and they kind of snap a little branch and it falls down, and they have to go and pick it up and bring it up to their nest. And the ravens and the eagles will take quite big sticks, and crows, and they'll weave them around and around and around to make a big nest. The herons as well. And then I was thinking about, well, what about our friend the robin? The robin's nest wouldn't need big twigs. A robin would like a cozier little space. So she and they would go and they'd find the smaller sticks, and they would work at that so hard, and they would weave that around with some water and they'd find some mud, make some mud, and they bring it to their nest, and they work so hard, a little twig here, a little mud there, and they might actually go around and they would find little scraps of things we accidentally leave in the woods, not a whole roll of yarn. But imagine if maybe from a craft one day when you were walking back home, a little piece of your craft fell down, or a piece off of a clothing, a thread, and a bird would say, oh, huzzah, I am absolutely interested in using that in my nest. And there's different little birds who will actually enjoy having something colorful in their nests on purpose. So I'll leave that one for you to do some discovering with. And then there's also the birds that they don't really make nests, they find nests. I think that's cool too. So what happens sometimes is we have the bird with the really strong beak, and it works at the tree trunk, and we hear the tap, 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 tap. Yeah, that's our friend if you were thinking woodpecker, you got it. The woodpecker loves to work at the tree and tap, 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 tap. looking for bugs and letting some sap out and going back later to see what bugs get stuck in the sap. And the other birds come and they can eat some of the bugs that were stuck in the sap that they could never have used their little beaks to tap away at the bark. The bark was much too strong and thick for their little beaks. So the woodpeckers are really, really helpful animals in the forest to help build communities for other little birds. And then that little hole that they made in the tree gets a little bigger and a little bigger over time, and eventually a hole in the tree is made in a cavity, and not like the cavity kind of hole you have in your tooth. This is a good cavity, and this is one where the little bird can go in there and make a home. For example, a flicker. A flicker would use a hole like that. So there's so many different kinds of nests. I'm curious if you wanted to think about collecting some materials to explore making different nests in your home. So you could go, if you have space in your neighborhood, you could go and collect some little bits and bobs from your yard or from under a bush, and you would say, "Hello there, little twig. Would you mind if I please used you to make a nest? I'm exploring nests right now." And the little twig seems to be okay with that. You could take a twig from this spot and move on to another spot, so you don't take everything just from one area. A little bit here, a little bit there, for this project to think about our bird friends and their homes and how hard they work. So to create a special space for their eggs and their chicks, and their little chicks will grow into fledglings and fly away over the ledge. And then you could collect some dirt, and you could use some water from home, and then you could, in maybe a bowl, you could put some of your twigs and some of your sprigs and some of your yarn. I hear you, Bumblebee. And some of your dirt, some of your mud, and this and that, maybe some scraps of paper, and you create a pretty little nest. I wouldn't use a bowl that was too big because you'll need a lot of materials. Maybe just use a little bowl about that size, and give it a try. Maybe something a little higher and like that. Weave it around, let it dry in the sun, and maybe you can gently, if you used wax paper at the bottom even of your container, you might be able to, when it dries, put it upside down and remove the wax paper, which is something you use when you're baking sometimes so your cookies don't stick to your baking sheet. That wax paper can come off, and then your nest won't stick to your container, and see what happens. You can see how well it worked, and then what you learned from that, and maybe what you might like to try again another time. And if you can't get outside right now, then you could try other things too. You could try using some, like I said, some of your yarn and some paper, and you could rip it up and cut it up, and I don't know, maybe you could make a paste with some flour and water, and see how that works. Trying different scrap fabrics that you can cut. And where you could try a big nest, something that would be an eagle's nest. Let's say, what about right before the towels get all folded, you can help your grown-up bring the towels up from the dryer and make them into a big cozy nest shape after the floor has been swept. And then you could sit in there and you could be a nest, and then you could pretend that you have a little egg that you're sitting on, and then oops, your egg hatches, and now the little birds are so hungry, and you have to go to and fro, bringing lots of yummy treats for the birds. Yummy treats might not be ice cream. I don't know about that. I don't know about cupcakes either. What about chocolate cake? If it's chocolate cake, it better be for this girl. So I'm thinking you could pretend more like, what would a bird like? If you're thinking about this little critter that wiggles under the dirt, you might find when you're digging in your garden, it's a wriggler. Some folks use it when they go a-fishing. Yeah, it's a wiggly worm. That would be a good snack for a bird. Also, juicy bugs. There are little berries that are starting to come out, I've noticed. Some of the Oregon grapes, the little yellow ones, are starting to appear. So you could pretend that you're getting some different foods. Maybe you even go and get some berries and snugly and carefully eat them in your nice clean towels on the ground and pretend you're a bird having a good snack. And then you're ready to try to fly for the very first time. And fly all around the room, soaring higher and higher into the sky. Well, that's a lot of ideas for your adventures today. There's thinking about birds, there's thinking about nests, thinking about bees, and looking at all of our friends, the plants that are starting to pop out and say hello to us, getting excited about their blossoms turning into little berries. Can't wait for some of those juicy snacks right around the corner. And I'd love to do one little song with you about birds before we go. Oh, I'm hearing that buzzing bee again. It's buzzing all around me. It's busy around here with the bumblebees. Not too busy though. I'm feeling comfortable. I think they're comfortable with me too. All right. There's a song. It's called Three Little Birds. See if I can remember how it goes. See if we can get to the beat. Don't worry about a thing. Let's clap instead. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Again. Don't worry about a thing. 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Here we go. Woke up this morning, smiled with the rising sun. Three little birds sitting at my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true. Singing, this is my message to you. Again. Don't worry about a thing. 'Cause what? 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Say it with me. Don't worry about a thing. 'Cause what? 'Cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Yeah. So, friends, it was fun to have some time in the forest with you, thinking about so many things that are just starting to come alive out here. I feel so blessed to be in this space, to get to be here with those adorable little birds, and to think about the bees, and to think about you and the adventures that you're having, and the games you're playing, and the cuddles you're getting, and the songs you're singing, and the pictures of nature that you've been drawing, or rainbows. And I am wishing you a very happy day, and wishing to see you as soon as we can get back in the forest again, friends. In the meantime, take care. Give yourself a great big juicy tree hug. See you soon, my friends. Bye.